Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Tia Eightton will be challenging for world titles in 2026, says Frank Smith. Tia Eightton is barely halfway through her first full year in the paid ranks, and yet showing why declarations she'll be a multi-weight, undisputed world champion don't seem very far-fetched. Ring and Unified Junior Welterweight champion Katie Taylor traveled to Halton, Lee Spring, watching the teenager's September 6th stoppage of Lydie Bialik, and deemed her a very special talent with potential to be the all-time greatest once she's finished. Bold proclamations from the Irish woman about Tia, since Tia is just getting started. 3 months on, she reeled off another stoppage, needing just 3 rounds to dismiss Brazil's Ana de Morales, and there was a sense of inevitability about the outcome. It's why she felt the need to apologize after an anticlimactic finish at York Hall on October 17th, and why there's naturally a desire to see her tested among the very best. Even still, at just 19, already booked and busy, the Bristol puncher is next slated to face another Brazilian over 8 rounds in Catherine Ramos as part of the Lee Wood vs. Josh Warrington 2 undercard at Nottingham Arena on February 21st. Same day they're supposed to be doing Ryan Garcia versus Mario Barrios. That looks to be a busy weekend. It was a tough opponent, but look at the performance she had. Matchroom CEO Frank Smith told the ring she got caught with some shots that fired her up to go finish the show. In terms of levels of opponents, you've got to step up, and that quality of competition will improve as more female fighters come into the ranks, but she'll be challenging for world titles next year. In the 118-pound division, Shernika Johnson holds all the marbles, at least momentarily, and I believe that young Tia would have to start fighting in eliminators to land that fight, because I don't know that Shernika is just going to give it to her voluntarily. Thus, Tia will have to become her mandatory to force the issue, and that's assuming that Shernika is still even there by the time Tia is ready. 9 months ago, Matchroom chief Eddie Hearn came under scrutiny for his comments on mid-level women's boxing, having willingly let Ring and Unified Junior Featherweight champion Ellie Scottney and other notable names venture over to pastures anew with MVP, headed by Jake Paul and Nikisa Badarian. Their aggressive recruitment drive features many top names across multiple divisions, champions, contenders, prospects, the latest signee being Scottney's gym mate and WBC lightweight champion Carolyn Dubois. While they have flourished with increased spotlight and exposure stateside, Hearn's point was that it's easy to finance at the lower entry level, and big fights like Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano's trilogy and Taylor's 2-fight series with Chantel Cameron, all marquee nights on their own. Taylor and newly minted IBF champion Elif Turan are the 2 headline names within their existing roster, though former champions Sky Nicholson and Sandy Ryan have quietly sought to reclaim gold themselves. One-time WBO lightweight champion Rhiannon Dixon will return at junior lightweight in 2026, while Shannon Ryan isn't far from world level. Opportunities at junior bantamweight after a sneakily successful 12 months with promising progression behind the scenes. Finding the right opponents and profitability financing these bouts is tough, when not every fighter is blessed with the same hard-hitting power nor watchability that Beatrice Ferreira and Turan combined to show in Monte Carlo. Nicholson has been well promoted, but has the same issue. You've got to make fights which interest the fans. Ferreira versus Turan did, and people should respect Beatrice for taking a real test as a world champion. Yeah, but it costed her her belt. That's why we want to see great fights. It won't always go your way, but that's how the sport grows and is our focus going forward. And so, we can expect Tia to start fighting in the necessary eliminators to secure a mandatory position to thereby challenge for an alphabet title. Though, as stated, I don't know that Shernika Johnson will still be there by the time that Tia is ready. And so there are two stories here, two primarily. The focus may be on young Tia May Eightton challenging for an Alphabet title, but what else they have in store for their other female fighters. It's interesting. They mentioned Rhiannon Dixon would be moving down to Super Feather at a time where that division's undisputed champion, Alicia Baumgartner, will likely move up, affording Rhiannon Dixon the best chance at becoming a two-weight world champion once all those belts go vacant. And what else they have in store for their other Valkyries? It seems that Matchroom is past the experimental stage with women boxers, and now they want to match them even more ambitiously. Because the goal isn't just signing women for the sake of signing women, but promoting them to the point where they can become attractions all their own. That is the end game.
The goal.
We already know that Sandy Ryan, former champion Sandy Ryan, is set to fight for a title, a vacant one, in her next fight. I suppose that we can also expect Shannon Ryan to fight for a title at some point next year at her prescribed weight, Superfly, which is one of the deeper divisions in all of women's boxing. Accenting what I've been saying all along, where some people thought that Matchroom was withdrawing from the women's game, they're just fine-tuning their strategy, because I reiterate, it's not enough to just sign female fighters for the sake of signing them. You want them to develop into ticket sellers, draws.
You're always hearing about equal pay for women boxers, and the way to get there is to become a draw.
It's the biggest determining factor in what a fighter makes, a male fighter or a female fighter. How many tickets can you sell? How many people can you get to watch your fight? That's the way to do it.
That's Matchroom's strategy.
Now on to a recent set of quotes from Matchroom impresario Eddie Hearn regarding two-weight world champion Alexander Usyk, two-time undisputed champion Alexander Usyk. Twitter is a wild place. You start to see arguments about, is he an all-time great? Yes, of course he's an ATG. He went to pretty much everyone's backyard to unify the cruiserweight division. Then he stepped up to heavyweight, beat Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, and Daniel Dubois, the three top heavyweights in the world. He's beat them all. It's phenomenal what he's done. He's an all-time great.
Saying so with some certainty, what seems like common sense to the rest of the world isn't so to Americans, because if you're talking about people criticizing Usyk and questioning his legacy, that's who you're talking about.
They were doing the same thing to Naoya Inoue this past weekend because he didn't knock out Picasso, even though he won practically every round. They've been doing that to Naoya Inoue for some years now, and also Alexander Usyk. No matter how many champions he fights or how many belts he unifies, how many times he becomes an undisputed champion, and it's all because he's not American. Because I can guarantee you, if that were a homegrown fighter that had that exact same record doing those exact same things.
I remember when they thought Andrew Tabiti was going to be the next great cruiserweight. That didn't pan out. He got smoked by Uniel Dorticos,
claiming that the World Boxing Super Series was not complete, the first one, because Andrew wasn't there. Well, he participated in the second one, and he got smoked. How easily the Americans are impressed by their own, and how high they set the bar for everyone else. The attitudes would be a lot different towards Usyk or Inoue if they were Americans. They could have the exact same records, with the exact same accomplishments, and you wouldn't see anybody questioning their legacy.
So that when you see people questioning Usyk's, you know what it is. It's a situation to where Usyk won't be able to do enough for these people to give him his just due.
No foreign fighter will, because to the Americans, a lot of them, it's not about giving a fighter a fair shake or setting a bar that the fighter has to live up to. It's resentment. Plain and simple. Resentment that a lot of the top fighters in the sport today aren't Americans. No, not all of them. This is not your father's era of boxing where America cornered the market on world-class boxers. The sport is more diverse now, and they don't like that. Alexander Usyk hasn't given anybody much reason to criticize him over the years. He does what you want a fighter to do. Fight the other champions, unify all the titles, move up in weight, challenge yourself, take on the big names. He's done all that.
And won.
And I still saw people saying that he can't be an all-time great or he can't be an all-time great heavyweight because he doesn't have enough fights. Doesn't have enough fluff.
Like the Americans. Should he have spent the first 7 years of his career fighting no-hopers and fat journeymen like Deontay Wilder did? Would that have been more impressive to the Americans? Because they sure liked Wilder, but they're very critical of Usyk.
When they talk about Wilder's knockout percentage, his knockout record, he doesn't actually hold any knockouts over any real noteworthy guys, save maybe Luis Ortiz, but the vast majority of those other guys, they're no-hopers. Is that what Usyk should have done? Kick a bunch of cans down the road to impress the Americans? Not really, because if he did the same thing that Wilder did, they'd criticize him for it while putting Wilder on a pedestal. If not for their double standards, they'd have none.
No standards.
Now, as it pertains to the fight between them, Usyk's team are looking at either Vegas or LA for the Wilder fight next spring. The heavyweight championship could make its way back to the United States for the first time in nearly 5 years. Fittingly, the event would include the last American heavyweight to challenge for that very crown. Egis Klimas, the career-long manager of two-weight unified heavyweight king Alexander Usyk, informed Dubai-based publication The National that a targeted clash with Deontay Wilder could take place, if finalized, on the U.S. West Coast in late April or early May.
Both men would have sat out for roughly a year in between their last fight and their next one on that schedule.
Talks are ongoing for the already approved voluntary defense, though the blessing of the sanctioning bodies was the least of anyone's worries. A number of details remain in need of resolution, though none of which figure to serve as a roadblock. One key item is the promoter of the show. Klimas would not tip his hand on the groups with whom he is presently negotiating, other than to reveal that it won't involve Riyadh's season. No, actually, that's a different group from the United States, Klimas told The National during the start of the World Sports Summit in Dubai. I cannot say that he's not going to be fighting in the Riyadh season in the future. He might be fighting in Riyadh season, but as far as right now, we don't have any offers or anything like that from them. Usyk linked up with Riyadh season in Turkey El Al Sheikh for his two-fight set with Tyson Fury. Their first meeting marked the first undisputed heavyweight championship in 25 years, won by Usyk via split decision last May in Riyadh. They returned to the Saudi capital for their rematch last December 21st, where Usyk claimed a more convincing decision win.
The Saudis, not being the ones that are putting this fight together, gave rise to suspicions and rumors that Usyk has had a falling out with Turkey, rumors that he quickly dispelled himself via a social media post yesterday.
Seen here alongside Turkey saying, "Don't lie, everything is fine." So the working relationship still exists between Usyk and Riyadh season that might see him fight on one of their cards in the future, though momentarily, they're not the ones at the helm of this promotion.
Then who is?
So what American-based promoter would have the means and the money to put this fight together? Well, I don't think it's the PBC. Wilder hasn't fought under that promotional banner since October of 2022, roughly 4 years ago, when he stopped Robert Helenius in a round.
I don't get the sense it's the PBC or Golden Boy Promotions for that matter. Top Rank.
We're in January of the new year, and they've yet to announce who their new broadcast partner is going to be. I don't get the impression it's Matchroom either. So what American-based promoter would have the means and the money and the resources to put this fight together? Because Usyk's been making a lot of money per fight, and Wilder is going to want to for fighting Usyk, who can satisfy what they both want.
Who's got the dough?
Just so happens that even though Zuffa is relatively new to the sport of boxing and has yet to launch, they're a well-financed organization, aren't they?
But Egis said this doesn't involve a Riyadh season.
Well, Zuffa Boxing isn't Riyadh season or Ring Magazine for that matter. It's a separate entity to where even if Turkey is working with them, fighting for Zuffa doesn't mean you're fighting for Riyadh. That's Sella, that's Dana White, that's the WWE.
Paramount.
Who else operating in America would have the kind of money to bring Usyk and Wilder together? And that's the only outfit that I can think of.
But why would they want to?
Well, I've been saying it on repeat that familiarity is important in the sport of boxing. Many Americans are familiar with Deontay Wilder and to a lesser extent Alexander Usyk, to where maybe they're putting that fight together for branding, for familiarity, to make a splash in the American boxing scene with a big fight.
I vaguely recall hearing that Zuffa would try to do 3 or 4 big shows annually once they launch.
And they are set to launch. at the end of this month with a card that features Rayo Valenzuela, Sergey Boachuk versus Radzav Butaev. Sounds like a solid little card, but to be competitive with the other game in town and make a splash in the American boxing scene, they would need something a lot bigger than that.
Wilder versus Usyk.
When is the last time that a world title fight happened on U.S. soil? Because it feels like it's been a while. So maybe it's Zuffa behind the scenes putting this together, and thus they have to be cloak and dagger about it. They want it to be a surprise, in tandem with not garnering any bad press if they fail to put this fight together.
Okay, so why is Usyk giving Wilder a shot? Why does he want to fight this guy? You dropped your WBO title and gave it to Fabio Wardley so that you could fight the faded husk of Deontay Wilder?
I've said it before and I'll say it again. Alexander Usyk, throughout his career as a cruiserweight and as a heavy, has given the boxing fans little reason to criticize him, so maybe what we're seeing here is him entering the twilight stage, the final stage. Deontay Wilder is one of the more prominent heavyweights,
One of the more familiar ones that he didn't fight.
alongside Joseph Parker, though perhaps Wilder, comparatively, if marketed right, makes for a bigger fight.
Parker's out of the running anyway. He lost to Fabio.
He's been in there with all the known heavyweights, save one or two. Deontay Wilder remains. Could be a very easy lick for Alexander Usyk, worth a lot of money, depending on what they're paying him. And what they're paying him, if it's Zuffa, could be substantial. There's been a lot of chatter about the pay scale at Zuffa. Assuming that they are the ones putting this together,
Dana White's business practices at the UFC, and whether or not we'll see some semblance of that at Zuffa, are they going to jerk the fighters?
how could that same Zuffa be the ones putting this together? And listen, I don't want to jump off a cliff with this theory, this notion that they're the ones behind this fight, but you tell me, if it's not them, then who?
Netflix, maybe?
So say Netflix has a fleeting interest in doing a legitimate heavyweight title fight between Alexander Usyk and Deontay Wilder. Let's just say, for argument's sake, it's them. You'd still need someone at the helm of the promotion. Netflix is a broadcaster, a platform, not a promoter.
I don't think it's Netflix.
My reaction to the fight, Usyk versus Wilder. It's something to watch, folks.
I'm not against it.
You know what Wilder's been saying? That Usyk waited up until he started losing fights to want to fight him.
Bullshit.
I know it's bullshit, because shortly after Usyk made his heavyweight debut with Chaz Witherspoon, Wilder lost to Fury. Lost to him the first time, lost to him the second time.
That categorically, the whole time that Usyk's been at heavyweight, Wilder's been getting his ass kicked. So he didn't wait until you started losing to want to fight ya.
You've been losing the whole fucking time he was there, so on that predication, I would relish the opportunity to see the master take Bambi to school.
People are gonna start talking about Wilder's right hand and how the right hand is the southpaw killer.
Usyk being a southpaw, is he biting off more than he could chew? And it requires more timing and more reflexes here today to catch Usyk with that right hand than Wilder has. The last time I saw him, in the Tyrell Herndon fight, the explosivity, the snap on the punches, it's gone. And it's not going to miraculously show up in May of next year. So I have Usyk winning the fight.
I think most people with a functioning brain cell have Usyk winning the fight.
Though it won't stop the American media and content creators from once again putting Wilder on a pedestal in the hopes that he can pull a hat trick.